Good morning, good evening, good time of day, wherever and however you're watching. I'm happy you're here. I'm excited about what we're about to get into. In this video, we're going to take yet another look at the future of Denver and see where things are headed because there is a lot of big stuff going on. It may not be completed for a while, but once it is completed, Denver, Colorado is going to look significantly different than it does right now. And I mentioned this particular project in a different video talking about a different project, and I thought it was time to do a video on this one. So that project that I mentioned previously was the Ball Arena River North development, which is the biggest and probably most exciting thing happening to reshape Denver's future. But that project is also very slow moving and rife with question marks. But there is another project going on right now. It's just in the early stages of groundbreaking and construction. Not quite as big, not quite as impactful when you look at reshaping the city as a whole, but it's going to move quite a bit faster and it's going to affect one of Denver's most desirable areas. That project, of course, is the Cherry Creek West development. So we're going to go through some tabs here, take a look at what this development actually is and what it's going to end up being. And the big reason it's interesting to me is because it's taking an area of Cherry Creek, which you know if you live around here is very, very desirable, very high dollar real estate, that has sat mostly vacant for a long, long time and is finally going to do something with it. So here is their official website with a nice little video of the Cherry Creek itself. The video is running choppy, at least that's how it does on my Mac. Probably just me, but this is the type of website you see on a lot of these new developments. It's bright, it has some renderings, some video of people walking dogs and riding bikes, because that's what they want you to think of that this community is going to be. Now, they also mentioned, welcome to your new 15-minute community. This is a phrase that's used over and over again when talking about this. We're going to get into what that actually means because, to be quite honest with you, I had no idea. So there's some stock photography, there's some punchy copywriting, as you typically see, and there is a little fun whimsical map that shows where exactly this development's going to be. But let's pop over to Google Maps to take a look at it so I got the satellite imagery on here. This is Denver. Okay, if we zoom way out, you see Denver, you know where we're looking. If you know what we're talking about, this is downtown over here. And this is Cherry Creek, okay? Get out of there. Thank you. Cherry Creek, as we zoom in, okay? So the Cherry Creek neighborhood is kind of this chunk right here all the way up to 6th. Cherry Creek West is this basically parking lot and chunk of buildings right here. So University and First Avenue. It is on the west side of Cherry Creek, just to the west of the Cherry Creek Mall, as you've seen. So what we got here is some old buildings. One of them is a former Bed Bath & Beyond. This other one here is, it becomes a Halloween store every October. You've probably seen it if you've driven through the area. Beyond that, it's vacant, and most of this is vacant, and you will see the majority of it is made up of parking lots. And this is something that's sort of a relic of developers past, let's say surface parking lots. Now with urban density becoming more and more dense and this land becoming more valuable and developers thinking about the smartest uses for this land, you're not seeing surface lots too much anymore in any sort of concentrated area like this. You're seeing underground parking lots, sometimes parking garages that also have different uses. But that's the idea here. But it's this big chunk of land. So it's actually 13 acres, bigger than it looks. And it's going to connect down here to the Cherry Creek and the Cherry Creek Trail, or the Colorado Front Range Trail, if you will. And this chunk is just stuck out like a sore thumb for many years. I, as many of you probably have driven past it so many times going, gosh, what a waste of space. And I wonder when something's going to go in there. And that something is now-ish, or at least finally getting started now. Just some background in case you don't know, Cherry Creek, the neighborhood has some of the best shopping and dining in all of Denver. I would probably say the best, especially in terms of walkability. And a big part of that is this Cherry Creek North sort of open air walking mall. It's not a walking mall, but it feels like it in certain ways. Development. Cherry Creek North is up here basically from 1st to 3rd-ish. And then of course there's the Cherry Creek Mall down here, which is nice, but is a mall. So this new development at least is going to be dubbed as not just part of that neighborhood, but a separate part, a separate region, the Western region. So what's it actually going to be? What's it going to look like? Well, let's continue through the tabs. First of all, I got Colorado Biz pulled up here, and this is just a quick look to mention who's doing it. So it's a joint venture between Mortensen and Saunders Construction, two of the bigger national, I guess, construction companies companies that do work in Denver. They've been involved in a number of projects here locally, especially big projects. So they are teaming up just as they did to do some work in Cherry Creek North. They've also been involved in the 9th and Colorado development, one of the newer, I would say successful developments in the city of Denver, and also the Union Station development. Shout out to my buddy Damien for getting those buses running on time. So major players in the national and local construction scene at the helm of this project. Popping over to the Denver Business Journal, we're going to get into details of the development here because it was announced, more than a year ago, but things are finally happening. So this article here is from February of this year, so a little bit out of date, but does have some pertinent information. So it's going to be a mixed use development, okay? So retail, housing, and some office space, as well as parks and open space. That's a big part of this. I feel like developers kind of have to do that now, and we're going to get into that. East West Partners is the developer that's at the helm of this, that hired Saunders and Mortensen to do the construction here. So the project is going to be built in phases, and they say the first phase is estimated to begin in April of 2026. Right now, here in mid to late 2025, what's happened is some asbestos abatement, because yes, they did find asbestos in one of those old buildings I mentioned. So that's what's happened so far, and they're planning on groundbreaking end of this year, early next year, and then fully moving into phase one, hopefully spring 2026. If you know anything about construction projects, you know that these timelines can change. First phase is going to add 2% more retail space and about 6.5% more residential units to the area. First structures going to be built will be an 8-story office building and 2 13-story multifamily buildings. So that is housing. And each building will have ground level retail. So as we scroll down to the first rendering here, you're getting the idea of what it is. Big open walkways with some area to play, kind of park-like open setting, and then these big 8 to 13-story buildings with either office space or condos, basically, maybe apartments on the top of them, and then retail on the main level. They also mentioned that 10% of the housing that's built here is going to be affordable housing. So that means 60% of the area's median income. That's what you need to make max to qualify for this affordable housing. And then phase one will also include 2 levels of underground parking, which is what I mentioned. That's over 1,000 parking spaces. I like this because unlike some of what's gone on downtown, what they're admitting here is, yes, we're still a car culture. It would be great if everybody biked and walked and jogged everywhere, but that's not reality. If you're going to Cherry Creek West, chances are you're going to be coming from an adjacent neighborhood or from an adjacent city. You're going to need somewhere to park. And here it is. In addition to office, retail, and residential spaces, 41% of the buildable area at Cherry Creek West will include open spaces. So this is that open, wide walkway, the places for the kids to play, the parks, the gathering spots, the public art installations. By the way, it mentions here one of the buildings in this Cherry Creek West development was the former home of Elway's Steakhouse, which I feel like I should mention. Elway's has long since moved out. When I did my steak tour, Elway's was one that people kept bringing up. Why didn't you go there? Honestly, I didn't know anybody went to Elway's. My bad. I do need to make a trip and probably should make a video out of it. But if you're looking for steak right next door in the mall, 801 Chop House is a good option. Popping over to Denverite in a more recent article that talks about it a little bit, just getting into the stats, there'll be 7 total buildings once this whole thing is built out, once all the phases are done. Office space, more than 800 total residences, roughly 100 of which will be affordable housing. They say the developer also wants to create better connectivity between the neighborhood and the Cherry Creek Trail, billing the new neighborhood as a gateway to Cherry Creek, as one would in this circumstance. East West Partners also pledges to make it easier to cross from the neighborhood to the Cherry Creek Trail, as we mentioned, and improve pedestrian infrastructure at First Avenue and University Boulevard, which you may know is a pretty darn busy intersection. Also at First and Clayton and University and Cherry Creek Drive. And the company will also widen the Cherry Creek path in one of its narrower areas. Article ends by saying, we want this to be a model for a 15-minute community where you don't have to rely on a car for every trip. Okay, so what does that mean? Let's pop over to another Denver Business Journal. And the answer sort of lied in that response right there. They tell us here, by definition, a 15-minute community, it says 15-minute city, but I think they mean 15-minute community, are where people's basic needs are within a short walk, public transit trip, or bike ride. So the idea is that you don't have to have a car, despite the fact that there will be 1,000 parking spaces directly beneath this. But I admire the thought. That's great to live in an area where you don't have to get in a car to do those things. Where people live, work, shop, get their hair cut, and more. It mentions the Cherry Creek West redevelopment will include a childcare facility as the first phase of the construction, which I love because it's one of those things that maybe is a secondary thought, but when you're living, obviously if you have children, it's a major concern. Initially we think about, where are we going to go to get our groceries? Where are we going to go get our haircuts? Where are we going to go for entertainment? But then those day-to-day concerns sometimes don't bubble to the surface until later, childcare being one of them, healthcare being another one. So a 15-minute community is where you can get to all these things, I guess, within 15 minutes of walking, bike riding, or taking public transit. And on the last point, if you know Denver, you know that's going to take a while to get us there on the public transit front, but you can also drive and park. We're going to get to a lot more renderings to what this is going to look like in theory. But one more thing on this article, 15-minute cities, it says, are a national trend, especially after the slow collapse of malls and outdoor shopping centers. So the idea is moving from something that's a traditional mall, even though that's what this is literally next to. But in many areas of the country, those have died out. Or like a outdoor shopping center, so like a normal, boring strip mall. Think Phoenix, Arizona. Into something that's more modern, more thought out, more useful, and honestly, just more visually appealing. Something that serves the same purpose, but is a place that you want to go to, unlike a strip mall. All right, so taking a look at the renderings, I have two sites pulled up here. This design workshop, they did some design work for them, and then there's another one after that. We're gonna look at both of these. Some of these are older, some of these are newer. By the way, this project is about $1 billion estimated right now. So you see it here, people walking around of all types, and they are enjoying themselves. It seems there's a little greenhouse over here, but you're seeing it, lots of open space between these buildings of different sizes. It certainly is going to reshape the way Cherry Creek looks to have more mid-rise, high-rises over on this end. Here's an aerial that I really, really like. Of course, everything's bright and new, but this gives you an idea of what it is. See, it's significantly higher than the mall, so I do wonder some people over on the east side if they're going to worry about their views, but it does connect right here to the creek. And even this open space sort of spills out to some creekside hangout area, which I really like. This does remind me in some ways of what they have proposed over at the River Mile project downtown. You see this one we saw before here, kids splashing around, everybody happy, big open space, modern buildings, a lot of glass, looks like condos and apartments. Here's some more renderings that I believe are more up to date. You get the outdoor dining vibe, everyone's smiling, people have dogs, same situation here. And this right up next to the creek, very active, very sunny, very happy, very what we want Denver to be, I think, and what Denver at its best actually is. And here's an estimated timeline, early 2025, demolition and utilities. There has been some demolition already, as I mentioned, mostly interior on these buildings, but you can see some from the exterior as well. Q1 2026, phase 1 construction start, summer 2029, first building complete. And also at the same time, summer 2029, phase 2 construction start. So it's gonna be 2 phases. Phase 1 complete late 2029, phase 2 complete 2033. So it mentioned there in a previous article, as per the agreement with the city, East-West Partners has 15 years to handle this, but this is a much more aggressive timeline. This is about half that, 8 years. Again, there can be and probably will be delays, but sitting here in 2025, yeah, 2033 seems like a long way away, but for a project of this scale, it really isn't. And when we're looking at River North Ball Arena, that aforementioned project that could take, and they say will take 20 to 25 years to complete, again, bigger scale, this is a smaller bite, but still significant and is going to be done in much less time. I mean, shoot, 16th Street, that redevelopment, that took what, 3-4 years, even more? It's still ongoing. It's about done, I think. But if we're talking 4 years there and 8 years for this, I'll take that trade. We, of course, will keep tabs on it as always. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, comment them below. I would love to engage in the conversation. And otherwise, this has been my serene pleasure. Talk soon.